You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to OklahomaHOF on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them. Do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. We are in cowgirl country today up in Stillwater to talk about OSU's Equestrian Center coaching, all the things. You guys have a great program here, very successful, as you can see behind us. A lot of trophies, national championships. But we're going to dive into Laura's story today. When people, first of all, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Lovely setup.
Yeah.
A lot of black and orange, which I'm a big fan of. As you can tell by the cables.
Yeah, go Pokes.
Sneaky little nod to Oklahoma State every time I go record somewhere. So most people catch on to it.
I love it.
So we'll get to like how you end up here. But growing up, what is your first introduction to a horse, a pony? Like, is it the typical I'm a girl, I want a horse kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like, and every dad's just like, it's gonna cost me so much money.
Well, definitely grew up in a unique setting. I come from generations of the horse family. For as long as we can remember, my grandpa was a legendary horseman, often coined as the Renaissance man of the horse industry. He was the first for a lot of things, helping develop the National Reining Horse Association, making the Quarter Horse Association what it is today, and had his stake in the rodeo business too before rodeo was even rodeo, and so he's written a lot of books and has just been a legend for a long time. He passed away a couple years ago at the age of 100, and so I've always felt that I've had big shoes to fill. My uncle, of course, is a NRHA judge, horse trainer. My dad trained horses for a long time too, and so I was just naturally the fit for the next generation in the horses. So it just was always something that I loved. Yeah. Watching my parents train horses at an early age, and I was the one that was starstruck from it. I've got two older brothers. They weren't interested in the horses. They would help get horses ready and feed and things like that. But I was the one that was just in love with it all along. So it just was a natural fit for me.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen the look on your family's face if you were like, I don't think this horse thing's for me. They're just like, look at everything we do.
Right. Well,
I'm just going to go to pageants and do the other, whatever it is that, young girls want to do instead of riding horses.
Right. It would have saved a lot of money if I would have done that. Would have saved a lot of money. But no, I had an awesome childhood growing up. I think, for us, it was a simple life. It was very different than I think a lot of people my age and younger can maybe relate to. Uh-huh. We grew up in a small town in northern Arkansas in the middle of nowhere, down a dirt road, small tiny house, riding bikes down a dirt road. We didn't have to worry about being kidnapped or getting in trouble. Drank out of the water hose and didn't have TV growing up. Wasn't raised on it. If we did have TV, it was maybe 2 channels, and if we wanted the channel changed, somebody had to go out and change the wiggle the antenna. Yeah. But the TV, that we did grow up on, if we got it, was Home Improvement or the Andy Griffith Show. Mm-hmm. But it was humble financially, very limited. Mm-hmm. But so rich in happiness and joy, and watched my parents teach us the foundations of hard work. And if you wanted something, you had to make it, you had to get it yourself, and those are critical times. And I think our lives of development, I wouldn't change it for the world, And I remember my first show horse that I had, my dad went to a sale in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and he bought him as a yearling stud, brought him home. My mom wasn't too happy about that, but my dad had an eye for the young horses, and brought this horse home, bought him for $850, which is unheard of. Mm-hmm. I mean, back then, let alone today, you can't hardly buy a starting horse for, and be competitive for $50,000 now.
Oh, wow.
But that horse later on, I won a world championship title with him. And it was like, okay, you want to show a horse, you're going to have to learn how to develop this one from the ground up. And that was just what we did. It was, nothing was given. Everything was self-made to do it. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't change it for the world, because it taught me a lot. Yeah,
I mean, I don't have kids, but trying to raise a family, I see friends who raise kids in today's world, and for me, it's like that's a mega challenge, right? Compared to how we grew up, right? Being outside, no phones, no TV, whatever it was, that was just like, go have fun, go get dirty, go break a bone, and then those values of there's no distractions, or distractions that we have were actually good distractions.
Right.
I can't imagine now growing up that way, and it is. I think there's so much value now, and I mean, a lot of people are going to the homeschool model and staying out in the country, and if you got kind of internet and Wi-Fi, you can kind of do it, and I think at the time, probably growing up, we didn't know how good or bad it was. We just this is our life,
right?
But you look back and you're so thankful for
oh my gosh,
that maybe you didn't have everything you wanted, and all these toys and horses and quad bikes and Barbie dolls and whatever it is, right?
For sure.
You have so many great memories and values instilled in you that you carry today.
Absolutely. And, I always remember my mom in particular, getting sometimes a little frustrated of, I wish we could do more. I wish we could afford the nicer horse, the horse with the better pedigree and things like that. But, looking back, like I said, I wouldn't change a thing, because it taught me so much on how to work with a tricky horse, how to develop a young horse, and that hard work just meant so much more when you won something big. Mm-hmm. When you won something at a big horse show or a world championship title, it just was, the amount of emotions was just so heavy, because you knew what was put into it versus, my parents just bought me, this great horse. I was on it for a year and I won. It just means more. So I can relate to that 100%.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of F1 racing, stuff like that. And being from the UK, like Lewis Hamilton is the greatest of all time, pretty much. And kind of similar story to him and other great athletes is that you grow up not with all the best gear, which forces you to adapt. And kind of one of the things that he used to do relating to kind of not having the equipment was he didn't have money for new tires on his go-kart. So like he wouldn't change his tires. He'd just race until they couldn't basically put any air in them anymore. But, you got people out there on fresh tires, fresh equipment.
Yeah.
And he's just learning how to control the cart as you would with a horse, teaching it, learning when it's tricky. Like you develop your skills, so it's so much harder.
Oh, yeah.
But as a kid, you're like, this is now normal to me.
Yeah.
Like your normal is a lot harder to everybody else's.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
then it just puts you way ahead.
Yeah.
Because then when you do train him or you do get a horse that's like, oh, this one listens.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can make this thing do whatever I want it to do.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, that's really cool. So you mentioned you got 2 older brothers.
I got 2 older brothers.
Were they competitive as well?
Oh, very competitive. I grew up predominantly in my cousins. Most of my cousins are all boys. And so during the summers, we go up to Wisconsin to visit family on the family farm. And oh boy, did we get competitive, So I think, I had to grow up extra tough from that standpoint. So, I mean, I just have always been competitive, just growing up with boys. You had to once in a while get into a good brawl or a good fight and duke it out. And so that's just, I didn't have sisters. So, we weren't pulling each other's hair or fighting over makeup. It was my brothers and I, throwing punches at each other.
Yeah, just throwing bows.
Or going outside to get entertained, or if we get in trouble, break a window or something. It was, we got put to work outside. So it's just how it was growing up. We didn't have a tractor to make things easy. So often, if we needed a tractor, we'd hook up a team of Clydesdales to get it done. Or if we went to go pick out a Christmas tree, my brothers and I would go with my dad as we'd hook up a team of horses, and we'd go out and cut down a Christmas tree and fight about which tree was the best one, So that was life growing up.
People pay to watch people do that now, right? Like the Clydesdale, there's a big Clydesdale ranch kind of by me in Yukon.
Okay.
And they're all out there, and like people pay to go and take a tour around it and see the horses.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
yeah,
you grew up doing this.
I know,
right?
I grew up doing it. It was like the modern day Little House on the Prairie, right? So I probably, we could have filmed that for sure.
Was there a big age gap between you and your brothers?
No, we're all pretty close. 2-3 years apart. So.
Okay. So they saw you as equal. They didn't see you as like, oh, she's 5-6 years younger. Like she's,
well,
parents
I had to, as a girl, I definitely made him known, if I tried to get him in trouble or something, or, cry a little bit. So
I'm the eldest, so my younger brother did a lot of that to me, so I know how it goes.
Yeah.
Mom, he did this. Like, no, he didn't. I didn't do anything.
Oh yeah. We had our fair share of that. I put my brothers through a lot. I know I did. So.
Are they still kind of in the industry today?
They are not. They are not into horses at all.
Yeah.
I think that they are perfectly fine with just looking at a picture on the wall of a horse versus being involved in one. Mm-hmm. But they appreciate it and support me 100% in what I do. Yeah. And so both of them are in Texas right now. So, it's just me carrying on the horse generation. Yeah.
You mentioned winning a world title. How old were you when you won the world title? And talk me through it, because that's kind of a big deal. Like in any sport or anything, like a world title it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, so the horse that my dad bought, at the sale as a yearling, they helped me get my start as far as training that horse and teaching me all the ins and outs of it. Later on, my parents pushed me to go get some extra guidance and some extra help from some of our friends that are great horse trainers in the business, Jerry Erickson, and then later on I went to get help from Terry Cross and Steven Stevens in Texas, who are the best in the game. They helped me develop this horse and reach my goals, and went to horse shows with me. And a lot of the horse shows that I would go to, I actually didn't have my horse full-time in training like a lot of people do now. My mom and I would haul to shows, and I'd go get lessons and go get help and then bring my horse back home, which is not normal for a lot of people now in this industry.
Because the horse would just stay at the
Horse would
facility
just
and you
stay.
would come in,
Just stay. So you'd pay, monthly fees for boarding and training and horse shows, and you would never have to feed your horse or clean its stall ever. So for me, it was getting the lessons, retaining it, and then bringing it back home. And so a lot of work went into that, and it was incredible. I won. I think I was maybe 17 when I won it. It was at the Paint World Championship show in Fort Worth, Texas at the time, and made the finals. Didn't think I was going to make the finals. My horse was having a lot of soundness issues and trying to founder on me. Didn't actually thought we might have to scratch the class. And a lot of hard work went into trying to keep that horse sound and ready to go. And sure enough, I just went in with everything I had and thought I'm going to give it my all, and had a backing group of people that believed in me, and it just all came together and ended up winning. I think under all 5 cards, there's 5 judges, so ended up winning it, and a lot of emotion, a lot of tears, a lot of excitement. Mom, dad, horse trainers. So no, it was a big deal for me for sure, and I think that's really what got my spotlight and got some attention from some college coaches too, getting into that time. So it was just right place, right time, a lot of hard work. Just a phenomenal opportunity.
What's the most vivid memory from that, winning? Anything stand out? Because it generally happens fast, right?
Yeah.
It happens so fast. You're in the moment. You don't really have time to think about it because you're focusing so much on it. But when you do get that moment, you're like, what do you remember? What was the thing you remember?
I remember going in. I don't remember much about my actual pattern at all. I remember the before and after, and the before, me staying there, bright lights, walking in, and just thinking, trust the process, believe it, trust the process, and your heart's beating a million miles an hour, and you're trying to breathe, calm it down, and just focus, and then lights out. That's all I remember. Going through it, and then afterwards. That announcer saying, world champion, calling my name, and then just seeing everybody in the stands get so emotional because it meant more because of what I went through to get that horse there and just that story. So it was a huge moment for us.
Yeah. And like you said, it comes at a great time because then you're on the radar of college coaches. And before we get into that, explain to me and maybe people listening, how. Because most people, we just had the Olympics, right? Most people see the Olympics, they see horse riding in the Olympics. What is your, you mentioned 5 judges cards, what's the process and the act, I guess, compared to any other form of, is it the same as what you do in the Olympics?
No, a little different. So, there's so many facets in the equestrian world that's unique. There's the hunter jumper side of it that we see at the Olympics. There's the eventing side of it. There's the dressage that we can see at the Olympics. The Western world, really isn't on the Olympics. There's a variety of different events, from the reining, the horsemanship, the showmanship, the halter events, and then you get into your rodeo side, the barrels and things like that. My focus, at that time, I showed the reining, and I showed in the all-around events, which would be the showmanship, the English, hunt, seat, equitation, pleasure, horsemanship, trail, all those things. So I showed in a variety of events. Usually at your bigger shows, there's multiple judge system. Smaller shows, there's 1 or 2 judges, depending on where you go. But yeah, your elite level, it's usually quite a few judges. Okay. Yeah. Just
a lot of events that you could go into.
A lot of events, and now you're so specialized. At that time, I was, I showed in a lot of events. And so now, you see girls with several horses that they're just, that certain horse is just for the pleasure. This certain horse is just for the reining, because our world's developing into that, which is awesome to see. We're breeding horses to be in a specific event and to do it at an extremely high level. So, but we still see a lot of great all-around horses and things like that. But that was that was my focus growing up, is kind of doing it all.
Yeah.
And then it made me a better rider for college, for sure.
Yeah, more well-rounded, but also and then well-rounded as a coach too.
Yeah.
Right? You like understand all these different events and different intricate ways, and then understand the horses as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you're on the radar. You're 17. You're a world champion. Coaches start calling, knocking doors, sending letters. Like, parents are like, yeah, you're going to college. Maybe it's going to get paid for. Like, I mean, what's the take me to that moment?
Yeah. So, I honestly, I wanted to be a horse trainer growing up, and my parents were, they didn't tell me no, but they kind of discouraged it. They wanted to encourage a different route for me. And so I thought, okay, well, what can I do that still involved horses? Okay, let me try to go to school. See if I can get a career to support this horse habit. And so
addiction
for sure. I've got a problem, us horse people aren't right. But, I started looking at different schools, and I was still, in many ways an underdog, because there was a lot more girls out there that maybe had the nicer horses and the bigger name and the bigger politics. And so for me, I was still an underdog. I got enough attention and my name out there enough to get me to the place that I wanted to go. But it still, I didn't have a surplus of schools. I had a few schools looking at me, but not everybody. At the time, I really wanted to go to Texas A&M. It was 3 hours from home, from Weatherford, Texas. And so, I knew the coach. The program at the time was winning championships left and right. I had the degree path that I wanted. So it just was a great fit for me. And I was blessed to get a scholarship there at Texas A&M. And so that was the right fit.
What was the degree?
Ag economics.
Okay.
was the path, for sure. And then I went to grad school from there. Got into more of the international agriculture route and did a lot of study abroads, and went to South Africa and all these cool places. But that was my degree, and rode for 4 years, and then stayed to volunteer coach for a year as I was in grad school, and just absolutely loved the coaching side of it. We were able to win, when I was riding, 2 national championships at Texas A&M. Conference championship, and then that 5th year volunteer coaching, I loved it. I thought, this is really what I want to do. But coaching positions are so far and few between in our world. And so, I thought, okay, well, I need to have something to fall back on. But if I could have my dream job, it would be coaching. Yeah. And at that time, University of Georgia had a position opened up, and I thought, no way. There's, no way but they pick me, but I'm going to try. I'm going to go for it. And sure enough, I was hired on before I even graduated. And so graduated, and then the next day flew out to University of Georgia to coach.
What is it about when you get done with college, you have a great college career, like I said, multiple national titles, conference titles, and you're like, I'm going to, volunteer to coach while you do grad school because you want to stay around it. I would have done the same thing too in the golf world. Well, coaching's different. Coaching's like it's not easy. No. It's a lot of patience. You've really got to have that perspective of the person you're coaching to really be good at it. Yeah, and clearly that's a skill you have. But you mentioned you wanted to do that before you even, your parents kind of had to convince you to go to college versus jumping into the coaching. So why coaching?
I loved it. I love the teaching side of it. And it sounds so strange, but it kind of runs in the family in a lot of ways. I watched my grandpa give clinics when I was growing up, and he would literally teach in such a powerful way. He'd have people crying emotionally. I don't think I do that. Not to that level. Yeah. Maybe I make them cry in other ways. But, there's just such a skill there and such a passion. And then I watch my parents, my dad and my uncle are just so good at teaching and reading people. And it just seemed something that felt so natural, but a skill that you could always keep developing. And it fascinated me because even though you're teaching people to read horses and feel out a horse and build their toolbox on what to do, you're really in the people business. You're really teaching people. So it just merged two things that really that is a passion for me. And when I had the shot to help volunteer coach and we had some success, I was like, I really like this. This is all I know, but this is all I want to do. So. And
when you go to be a volunteer coach, you're coaching probably some of the people you've ridden on a team with too, right? Because you additionally, I've just graduated, but the girls are still there.
Yeah, for sure.
So you've got to ride that kind of line of hey, I know we're friends and teammates, but I'm your coach.
Yeah, I'm your coach. Yeah,
it's difficult.
No, for sure. No, you've got that line there, and it's so tough, but I think that I had enough respect from them to be able to ease into that role fairly well, but still have a line. I know peers of mine that have been a legitimate coach and have gotten that role at a school that they graduated from, and I that's a hard thing to do. I wouldn't wish that on anybody because it's like you need to go into a different program, at another university, because that respect thing can be really tough when you're young and you're only a year or two older than them. So
yeah, it's rare, wasn't it? And was it a couple of years ago, a few years ago, that was at North Carolina, the hockey.
Yes.
She ended up taking them to a national title.
Yeah.
Which is that's rare and
that's insane.
But it is amazing.
Yes.
But yeah, it's definitely rare to have those stories.
Yeah.
So you get the Georgia job. Where were you when they called you to tell you had the job?
Oh, it's so funny you asked that because I do know exactly where I was. I was driving outside of College Station, and I, of course, had a phone interview. They flew me out to interview in person, and I gave it my best shot. And I was waiting. I was back in College Station. I was driving, and I got the phone call from the head coach, McGaughan, and I pulled over on the side of a highway, it was a terrible spot for me to pull over, but I was shaking. I was so nervous. I was sweating. And I picked up the phone, and I, of course, had my notepad by me too. And so I could, write some facts down she was telling me, but she's like, we'd like to hire you for the position. And oh my gosh, I was just starstruck. I didn't know what to say because I thought, man, this is literally my dream job. Not only that, but an extremely competitive school. I mean, Georgia's won tons of championships. And then I was going into coach 2 disciplines, so the reining and the horsemanship. And so to take on that whole Western side, I was just like, man, this is incredible. I haven't even walked the stage yet, and I've got a job. So that was also pretty cool.
Yeah. Who was the first person you called after you got the job?
Oh, for sure, Mom.
Yeah.
Got to call Mom, and she was ecstatic because I think in our family, when you call Mom's the one that delivers the message to the masses, right? So,
right.
But yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was that interview process like?
Man.
And does it change now to if you were to interview someone, would it have changed?
Yeah, I think I'd change it a little bit.
Yeah.
That interview process was. They did a phenomenal job. McGaughan, his attention to detail on so much, but they brought me in, and it was just going through a whirlwind. I had, back-to-back appointments with different people in athletics. I remember coaching, a practice. She brought out a few different girls and, just stood back and watched me coach and listened to me, and it was a whirlwind. I mean, just an absolute blur, but it was so well done. And of course, I overthink everything afterwards, right? I'm the chronic overthinker of, I should have done this different or this different, this different. But no, it was great. It was great. Yeah.
So you pack up, head out after you walk the stage, and
I pack up. I head out. I had movers come in, and I didn't know how to act with that either, because they
never had help moving.
Never had help moving. So we just came in and packed up all of my stuff and put it on the U-Haul and shipped it out, and then I had to fly out of College Station into Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know how to act with that, because I walk into an empty house and a suitcase waiting for my stuff to come 5 days later. And, I didn't know anybody at Georgia, just kind of just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to get to work, and didn't know a soul, but it was awesome.
What's the, outside of, working at because your career, you've worked at multiple universities, perks of working at great universities. I mean, Georgia football is probably pretty good to watch.
Oh my gosh,
All the other stuff
insane.
too.
It's insane. I mean, that's a different breed up there in the SEC. I mean, fan base and, oh man, so many great perks. But yeah, I was, of course, a big football fan being at Texas A&M. You have to be. I mean, Johnny Football. That was during my time. Yeah. That was a huge point.
He just plays golf now.
Yeah,
he's doing fine.
Get out of football. But no, that was during my time there at Texas A&M for sure. But the SEC is just built different with their football. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but the intensity, the fans, every game's a packed house. Every true fan is, screaming to the point their veins are popping out of their neck. I mean, it's just, they are built different.
It's a religion.
Yeah,
right?
But it's cool to see. I'm just so fortunate for those experiences at other programs and universities, for sure.
So, like you said, you get your dream job. You're in Georgia. Just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You're ready to go, thinking, this is it, right? I tick the box.
Yeah.
But, there's still work to do, and you're still young, so there's a career to build as well.
Yes.
And you're probably not thinking, where are you going next already?
Right.
You're like, I got a job to do. So tell me about that process, and tell me about that time at Georgia, and then, inevitably you leave to go somewhere else. So how do we transition into that?
So, I think looking back and, this is, 10 years ago when I started at University of Georgia, I was so eager to prove myself because I think I grew up so much of having to prove myself from not having that I needed to prove it. And so I wanted to prove that this is the best program, University of Georgia at the time, and I'm going to be the best coach, and I'm going to have the best team. And worked very, very hard in doing that and getting the girls to believe in that too, and fortunate to be able to have, three, I think SEC titles there, and then did not win a national championship, but came close. I think we were, runner-ups twice, so just barely missed it at Georgia. But, just so result driven at the time, which now I've changed that a lot, but just so result driven, and that brought me a lot of success for sure. But I think it got a lot of attention from other programs and coaches, and I got a call from Baylor University's head coach Casey Maxwell one day, and I wasn't really thinking about moving, but I did miss Texas quite a bit, and I took the job at Baylor for a year.
A lot closer to home.
Loved my time at Georgia, but certainly wanted to get back to Texas, around closer to family. And took the job there, and was there for a year. Had recruits that followed me from Georgia to Baylor.
You're doing something right.
It is,
even
but
though
then
it feels awkward and bad to take away.
know, and it is a lot of pressure because you're like, oh gosh, that's a lot of pressure. And I take that to heart and pretty personal, but at Baylor, and then had some great success at Baylor. But at that time, Coach Larry Sanchez calls me up from Oklahoma State and says, hey, I want you to come look at Oklahoma State and consider it. And at the time, he was looking at maybe stepping back from being in the arena and coaching and overseeing the entire program in a different role. And so he said, "You're the only one I trust to coach the reining and the horsemanship here, and I want you to come look." And I kind of hem-hawed around about it and said, "I don't know, Larry. I just got to Baylor. It's going to look bad if I just hop around and move again. I know other sports do that, but I didn't feel really right doing it." And so he kept on me, and he said, "Just come look. Just come to Stillwater. Just come look." And so finally, I thought, okay, I'm going to come look at Stillwater. And sure enough, him and his wife, Julie, toured me around Stillwater all weekend, and I just fell in love. And he was right. He's like, you just got to get here. You just got to get here. Just come look. Because he knew if he got me here, I'd be sold. And sure enough, I was. So I finally, he always says, well, yeah, you finally got it right. You moved around to all these schools and you finally got it right. So going into my 6th season, love it.
Found a home.
Found a home. Yeah. Found a family, found a home. It's awesome.
What was that getting, like, when you got here? Where did they take you? What, dive into that? Like,
oh, man.
I mean, I know, I get it, right? And I think people listening get it too, because even if you're from Stillwater or not, you're just from anywhere in Oklahoma, like, it's people.
Yeah.
And you said that earlier. It's people business, regardless of what business you're in.
Yeah.
And people are so nice here. But yeah, what's that like? You know, is it a big game day? Like, do you go to Eskimo Joe's? Like, what's the? Where do they do? How do they sell Oklahoma State?
Oh my gosh! Well, I mean,
coach?
There's no better person to take you around Stillwater than Larry Sanchez for sure. But he was with me pretty much the whole time. It was a whirlwind. We went to Eskimo Joe's. We went to Hideaway. We went to Ranchers Club. You know, all the big staples. It was during the summer, so it was quiet. And to be honest with you, I wanted my visit to be quiet because I didn't want it to get out. You know, I was still coaching at Baylor, and you know, how do you hide that? Without it getting out? I'm like, oh my gosh,
taking a weekend away.
Yeah, but no, they showed me around. They drove me around to the neighborhoods. They took me all around campus. You know, took me inside of athletics, and it was like, gosh, everywhere we would go, somebody would come up to Larry and shake his hand, and you know, all the different coaches, track coaches, you know, John Smith I met, you know, Chad Weiberg I met. It was just, you know, everywhere we'd go, we'd meet people, and these people would take the time out of their busy schedule to say, oh, Laura, yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about you, and da-da-da. And you could just tell that there was an energy and a family feel about people who live and work at Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. It was different. It was just not a business routine. It was personal. Mm-hmm. And Oklahoma State meant something to them, and everybody's connected to each other. They knew something about their personal life. They knew something. It was something that was special that I hadn't seen before. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. And Julie, Larry's wife, of course, talked to me quite a bit about being here and what it means. And Larry started this program from the grassroots. I mean, none of these buildings were here, nothing was here. So this program it means a lot to him. It's his life. And that's how he treats this team is his family. Mm-hmm. You know, we spend so much time together that, you know, he always says that we want to get along, we want to have fun, and we want to do life together. And I feel like that's such the family culture here at Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. And it's true to tradition and values. It's not just something people say, it's how we live. Mm-hmm. And so that's what sold me. Yeah.
And it's through every sport.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like, you know, it's unique to a sport. Like, I know a little bit about the golf side and what Coach Holder has done.
Yeah.
You know, and like, a lot of people are scared of him, but like he's building, you know, he's been here for a long time, and what he's built is incredible.
Yeah,
you know, the coaches that come around him and underneath him, like, yeah, I can't imagine
absolutely
how it feels to, you know, be a part of that family. And like he said to you, like Larry said to you, just want to get you here.
Yeah. I just want to get you here. And I remember meeting Coach Holder on my visit, and even going to Karsten Creek and just being in awe of what he does and what different programs at Oklahoma State do that make them so successful. So, but I take that, my first experience here at Oklahoma State, I take that into my recruiting, because I think about that a lot. You know, if girls have different perceptions about Oklahoma, they don't know anything about Oklahoma. They just think it's just a cowpoke town, right? Yeah. Just fields of cattle, and you're like, oh well, it's a little bit more than that,
and
you know,
flat.
And flat, and you're like, no. I just get here. Yeah. Promise me you'll come. Just see it. That's all I'm gonna say. Just promise me you'll come, and then when they get here, it's definitely a different mindset, different shift.
Yeah. Well, and I've done the Mid-South run, not the cycle race, every year for the last 4 years now. Do you know Bobby at all down at the bike shop and stuff?
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah.
So I've done, you know, I've just come up here, and
it's, the run's on a Friday, the cycle race on a Saturday, but it's a whole week event in March, and people come from all over to do this race. And like, Stillwater, Oklahoma is like where this crazy gravel event is. And it's funny just to sit back and just take it in, right? And see people get together of all shapes, sizes, all over the world to come here for a week.
Yeah.
Run and ride hills, which people are like, there's no hills. I'm like, yeah, there are.
Yeah,
Go on those dirt roads just a little south of town, southeast to southwest of town. You'll find them. They're out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun, I'm sure, for you to recruit and to bring people here because it's special. You don't really have to sell it that much.
Right.
And then you've got the program history and the facilities and everything else that adds into it.
Yeah.
That's been built. Like, that's the stuff that kind of wows everybody else when they go to other schools. Everybody's got great facilities. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got
sure.
donors and want to spend money and all the gear or whatever it is, but it's those intangibles that
absolutely
that we have here.
Yeah, it's the meat and potatoes of a program, not just the outskirts of a facility, and that's what I think makes us so special is that heart of what we do.
You said earlier, trust the process.
Yeah.
And I wrote down straight away, what's the best lesson you learned from your grandpa? Because you mentioned sitting back as a kid, watching your parents coach, and what's like the biggest takeaways that you have that he's around for 100 years, you're 100 years of wisdom from him, and your family.
Man, there's so many things that he taught me. And at the time when you're around a legend like that, people are saying, "Oh my gosh, you're around this legend." It's like you don't really know how to process that because
you feel pressure as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was pressure that my parents meant to put on me, and I don't think they. I think it was more the outside. I think it was more pressure. Honestly, I put on myself to fill shoes that I didn't think I could ever fill, because here's this man that's done so much for the horse world and industry. How could I ever come close to that? And I still struggle with that quite a bit. But I think the biggest lesson that I take away from him is to always be a student of the horse. Always be a student of the game. You can never know enough, and you can always evolve. And the second that you sit stagnant and think you know it all, you need to quit. And I think, till he was 100, he was still mentoring big time horse trainers out there and teaching and telling stories, and he was still so big on learning. I think he was one of the biggest innovators that I've ever known, because he was always trying to look at things differently and change and evolve. And 100-year-old man, who does that, right? Like, who's willing to change and adapt? And he was so good at that and so creative. And of course, my uncle and my dad are super creative too. So I think it just it kind of runs in the family a little bit. But yeah, I'm just blessed to be able to have that perspective of you can always learn something, you can always grow. And I feel that way with coaching. I feel like, during the off seasons, I need to go grow myself. I need to go learn from people that are more experienced than me and frankly better than me. And so I'll go home and ride with some of my mentors and people that I think are phenomenal coaches and horse trainers, because it helps me fill my cup and be a better coach here, for sure.
Yeah, like there's, and it's no secret that you're also like a psychologist too, because the horse is super smart, right, and can be stubborn probably, but you're not just dealing with the people, you're dealing with the horse too. And all of that, like this. Yeah,
it's a combo.
It's hard enough dealing with your own mind.
I know, right? No, it's definitely, you're a sports psychologist, but you got to be able to read horses and be a good horseman. And there's so many, horse trainers out there that are excellent horse trainers, but they're terrible coaches.
Yeah, they can't communicate.
They're terrible. Or you get people out there in the horse world that are excellent coaches, but they can't ride or train a horse to save their life. So to be able to have all the elements and put them together, I think is pretty cool. But no matter what you're good at or bad at, you can always keep growing and developing, But it is something that's special and unique in our sport, because these girls, you're teaching them to ride a 1,200 pound, 1,500 pound live animal with its own thoughts and emotions, and trying to figure it out.
Do you ride daily?
I try to ride quite a bit. Sometimes I just don't have time.
That's right.
But I do ride quite a bit. I need to keep riding more, but oftentimes I'll get on a tricky one, or one that needs a little bit of work or some time to progress, or if some of the girls are having some issues on a horse, I'll say, I'm going to ride that thing for a few days and try to figure it out what they're feeling. Because sometimes you can see stuff from the ground and coach them from the ground, but maybe something's not going through, or maybe you're not seeing what they're feeling and telling you. I just need to get on and feel it and figure it out. So
that's the beauty about being able to coach the in the sport that you coach, right? Like, my golf coach can stand there and hit a golf shot for me, and I can watch him from every angle. Yeah. But he can't step inside my body and hit it for me. Whereas you can step on the horse and be like, oh, now I understand it. I feel it.
Yeah, I get it.
Which is really unique.
I get it. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it's so funny because my uncle Jody Brainard, we actually brought him in to coach the reining with me, and so we were traditionally at 3 coaches. NCAA opened up the coaching pool for our sport, so we can now have 5 coaches in. So my uncle was the phenomenal reining trainer and coach actually in Mulhall, Oklahoma, and so he's kind of stepping back from the training, and so I brought him in and thought, help me coach the reining. He's got so much more experience than me, and a lifetime of it. And so he came in, and he's just taught me so much on how to think differently, and we merge a lot of different ideas and talk through a lot of different things. But one thing that he did tell me that really changed my thought process, when we're looking at riders and horses, is he always says that you can't always change people, and sometimes when somebody doesn't know, you've got to have patience with that. And so my grandpa always had a tremendous amount of patience. My uncle has a tremendous amount of patience. I'm getting better at having patience. I'm terrible at it. And so, and that was the thing Jody said. He said, people don't make mistakes on purpose. And that's such a critical thing as a coach to remember, because sometimes you want to jump down somebody and get impatient and, try to push them to grow faster. But it's like they don't make mistakes on purpose, not at this level. So you have to sometimes step back and have that perspective. And that's helped me a lot, think through that and adapt in my coaching a little bit later on. But it's been fun being able to coach with family.
Yeah, that's special too, right? That's another unique thing that you get to do. And I'm sure when you got the call, your uncle got the call, it's like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Why not? Well,
it just worked. It was the right time in his life, and the right time, for our program, for him to step in. And I think about that all the time. What if my grandpa was still around, what would he think and say about that? And I think he'd be tickled to death. He would have so much fun with it. So, yeah.
Mom and Dad get up here often?
They do. They try to, for home meets. They haven't been in a while. They've been so busy, but they enjoy it. They usually go to the big events, Big 12 championships, the national championships in Ocala, Florida, at the World Equestrian Center. They actually drove our truck and trailer down to Ocala. I don't know, that was like 18 plus hours. So they were the ones that drove all the equipment. We ship out our horses on big semi trucks. And so somebody's got to drive the tack and the saddles and all the things to Ocala. So they volunteered to do it. So they're huge supporters. Nice. They're big supporters. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool to have family involved.
Yeah.
And I'm sure for them too, it's super special to have, their daughter be not only successful, but doing something that you love to do, right? That's the one thing I see in friends and from doing this podcast is there's definitely, a similar feeling around people who've just found a job in their passion. There's things that people are good at. Sometimes it's not their passion. They're just naturally good at it. But when you're good at your passion and it doesn't feel like work and you can just show up here or stay late here and sometimes have to shovel crap or whatever it is you have to do. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't, it's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's what makes you tick and what gives you life. And what you
Yeah.
said earlier as well, like you found a place to do life together with these people.
Yeah.
And these young girls and this whole team. That's special. And I hope that, the one thing that people, when we do this podcast is like people, when we're so busy, we don't get a chance to sit around and rethink or think about or verbalize the stuff that we've done.
Right.
And you asked me earlier, you're like, why me? Like, well, the last kind of 40 minutes you talked about being a world champion. You've had multiple national championships as a coach and competing yourself. So you justified that one. But talking about this place specifically, you said, kind of built from the ground up. You have a great donor base, incredible facility, great horses. Talk a little bit about kind of the team size, what the season looks like, and then just kind of educate people listening on what it looks like to be a collegiate athlete, in an equestrian team.
For sure. So we're a team of 50 girls. We've got about 65 horses here. We have 4 events. So the 4 events being the jumping, the flat, which is like a low-level dressage, the reining, and the horsemanship. So 2 English events, 2 Western events. We recruit all over the country. Our girls come from all over.
And for people who don't know the difference, English saddle, Western saddle.
Yes, Western saddle, right.
Okay.
And so we recruit the best at all the major events. And so, our season is an absolute marathon, not a sprint. It goes from all through both semesters. So we start in August, so we go through right before Thanksgiving, and shut it off, and then restart in January, and then go through nationals in April. So it is absolutely a marathon. We are our kind of claim to fame. So we're head-to-head competition. So, when teams come here in regular season, they're riding our horses, our stock. When we go somewhere, we're riding their stock. So there's obviously a home advantage of certainly your environment and knowing your horses. But it can also be a fun challenge too, to try to outride somebody on the horses that they're supposed to know, and it can be tricky too, because those horses can throw a lot of different stuff at you, and it comes down to feel and communication and connection and being able to read a horse. And obviously the mental toughness side of it too is really important as an athlete, as a rider. So, that sports psychology we work through quite a bit, not just the horse training and showmanship that we do, but our girls work out. They do all the things. We teach them to eat right. They've got access to phenomenal things here: nutritionists, sports psychologists, phenomenal group of doctors, and so they've got the best of the best to be successful. But 100%, we could not do what we do without the facility from our donors. Horses that come in are all donated as well. And I think that, that's another huge aspect to our success, is being able to maintain those horses. From a physical standpoint, we've got a phenomenal team of vets, but also being able to train them and maintain them in the arena is really critical for us. So not getting those horses burn out, being able to manage them, progress them in training, or maintain the good ones and the older ones. So we've got horses, horse of the year horses. It seems like every school wants to come ride our horses. They get so excited at nationals. The schools that compete, everybody kind of brings a pool of their horses, and then, everybody else kind of rides your horses because it's in a neutral pool. And so everybody gets usually excited to ride Oklahoma State horses because I know that they're some of the best. So yeah.
I won't ask you now. I'm gonna ask you later. Who's got the worst horses? Everyone doesn't like to ride them. I say worst. Who's the most difficult horses to ride? We'll ask you that later.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that's really unique too, to have that. It makes sense. You don't want to be trucking and trailing and all. It's expensive, right?
Sure.
To do all that, and then. The more you truck and trail and travel, there's more chance for the horses to get hurt and all the other stuff. It's, and people don't think 65 horses, that's a giant operation.
That's a giant
operation. You don't think
operation.
of the team behind the actual girls and the team.
Yeah, 100%.
It's, like you mentioned, vets and all the other stuff.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot, but it's fun. We, like I said, we do head-to-head competition. So, it'd be like when we get the draw out that morning, it'd be like you versus me, and we're both riding, Bueno, for example. And, if you're riding him first, you get 4 minutes to warm up on a horse you probably haven't ridden, you don't know. And you go in, you show to a judge through a pretty complex pattern, come out with a score, basically pass the reins off to me. I get 4 minutes to warm that horse up and try to go in and go show, and whoever comes out with the highest score wins the point for their team.
Yeah.
So we've got 20 of those spots, so 5 starters per event. So that's definitely, it comes with its own complexities on a big team. In a judge sport. But no, we have a lot of fun with it. It's challenging, it's frustrating, it's awesome. It's all those things.
Yeah, I mean, you're lights on, and 4 minutes is not a long time.
No.
You're kind of lights on, under the gun, crash the situation, especially if you're going second and your opponent goes out there and crushes it. You're like, I have to perform now, and you know what you have to perform to.
Yeah.
Which is, you're building, and you could talk about athletes that they might only do this for this 4 years that they're here, right? But going out into the real world, being able to perform under pressure like that, and you're developing great human beings as well. Like, that's the byproduct, after this.
Yeah.
That's the great part about being a coach and talking. It's not just about now. It's like you're kind of life coaching them.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure there's people that you still stay in contact with that you've coached for years that
absolutely
you have this bond and this connection from being, in competitive sports, but going through life after college.
Yeah.
Sadly, we all can't make a career out of what we, our passion or what we do. It's a lot of people probably don't think of that, especially some of the fandom. Maybe it's not the fans here, but the fans in other sports too. You're like, it's life or death. Well, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, these kids have got a life to live after.
Absolutely.
They're 18 to 22 years old.
Absolutely. I was listening to a little podcast, a spiel on what Gonzaga basketball team did, and their motto was "Water the bamboo," and it was such a cool thought process. And I even take it into what we do here. It's if you take a bamboo seed and you plant it, you won't see any results for 4 years or after, and you water it and you water it and you water it, and you don't see anything. But what's happening underneath is there's a really complex root system that's taking hold and developing. And once 4 years comes around, you see that sprout. It's the bamboo tree is the fastest growing tree in the world. It grows up to 2 feet per day because it's got a root system that can support it. And that's what I feel like we do here is, the life after here is what's important, and we're helping them develop that and create that root system. So I thought it was pretty cool. But you're exactly right when it comes to winning championships. I feel like winning championships is what we do here at Oklahoma State, and we're going to keep doing. But it's a result of the process. It's a result of the culture. It's a result of character development. And for me, that's the most important thing in the world over getting a ring or getting a trophy. I mean, these are awesome. We're going to keep doing it, but it's so much more, and that fills my cup.
Yeah. Yeah, they're shiny, they're great, they're good to look at, and it builds a great trophy wall, but it's the people that these represent.
Yes,
right?
100%.
And you see the stories and, the good and the bad, the things that everyone's gone through.
Yeah.
And also, the horses, too, right? Like, the lifetime, that, that's the tough part, right?
Yeah.
That's the heartbreaking part sometimes, is, generally as human beings, we outlive horses.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
There's a lot of that, too, and going through that, I mean, the love that you have for the horses that you get in here is again unique. I don't love my golf clubs as much as you probably love some of the horses. I don't name my golf clubs as much as
right.
you don't give. Some of them I do maybe, but they generally get treated pretty badly. But it's a super unique position to be in, and clearly this is something that you just it's not work for you. You absolutely love doing this.
Yeah,
and it's not about winning. Yes, it is about winning, and that's the ultimate goal, but it's far greater than that.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool.
Absolutely.
Finishing up, do we have any response from Martha Stewart and Snoop yet? What day are we on right now? I
have lost track on what day we are, but Man, we got to
How
get
did
him
that
here.
start,
We
too?
got to get him here. So we've got 2 girls on the team, Lauren Pershly and Peyton Baxter, and they're 2 seniors on the horsemanship side. And they are witty, they're funny, they're creative, and I think that there was so much momentum at the Olympics seeing Snoop get dressed up and make the statement that equestrian is his favorite sport. And then of course the commentary from Martha Stewart and Snoop is just epic, right? When they're watching, when they're watching equestrian events. So these girls just thought, let's see what happens, and they kind of started doing it. I think just kind of for kicks and giggles on socials, it just blew up. Off the charts. I mean, and when I first saw it, I just kind of giggled and rolled my eyes like, yeah, right.
This is gonna last a week.
Yeah,
tops.
last a week. No, it's huge. I mean, we've been on the news several times.
Yeah.
We've had reporters come out left and right. Their phones are blowing up. Different things. They're getting interviews. They're getting asked to do different things. They had Gundy do it in front of the field. It was like, okay, now this is really taking off.
Dr. Shrum sat down with you.
Dr.
the
Shrum,
girls, right?
I know.
In her, fully head to toe in the
she's
gear
awesome.
too.
Yeah, she came out. She even rode, and she dressed up. She's phenomenal. But it blew up out of control.
What they were on right now. I can't find it.
But it's fun. I know that there's been conversations. I believe our Big 12 commissioner actually got involved and may have made a phone call. And to my knowledge, it's not a no. Yeah. It's he's really busy on tour, and we're gonna have to figure out how to sneak him here for a pit stop. Yeah. So I think that it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when, and it may not happen in our timeline. But I think I just can't imagine. I can't imagine what's going to happen when we do get him here. Like what this facility is going to look like for a home meet. I mean, it's going to be a concert. I don't even know how we're going to be able to focus.
No.
But these girls literally last football game they got on the field. We were blessed to be recognized on the field for a Big 12 championship. Yeah. They gave them the mic on the field. I
saw that,
And I'm like, this is getting so big. This is insane. But Snoop knows about it. I don't really know about the Martha side of it, but this place is going to be rocking when we have them here. I'm telling you.
I could just see him just walking in.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I love it. Here for it.
Can't wait.
For all of it. It has to happen.
I know.
And looking back, someone asks you in 30 years, what's the greatest day of your coaching career? And you're like, bringing Snoop to Oklahoma State.
Right. It's amazing. But I tell you what, the amount of fans that this has reached out to that know nothing about horses and have brought that attention to Oklahoma State and our sport of equestrian has been phenomenal. So, even if we didn't get him here, it's been so fun to draw that attention in. But we're going to get him here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just 2 seniors that just want a bit of banter. And why not? What's the worst can happen? Right? Like now we're on the field yelling at, everybody in Boone Pickens.
That's right.
Convince Snoop to come here.
That's right. We're going to get it done. Rome wasn't built in a day, but we're going to get this done. So.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Let's talk about finishing up. We've talked about, horse riding and coaching for a long time now. Do you do anything else outside for fun? Like if you're just gonna get away, like what does Laura want to do when she just wants to stay, zone out for a little bit? Yeah.
Well, my outlet for sure is outdoors. I'm a huge outdoors girl. So I can't even remember the last time I turned on my TV, and maybe that's part of my upbringing. We just didn't grow up on it, but I love to hunt and fish, and I've got all of that where I live on the outskirts of Stillwater. And that's what I love to do. I mean, that's my outlet, my passion. And I think that in some ways, in different crowds, I'm known as the outdoor girl over being a coach sometimes. Yeah. But no, I love it. I've been able to travel quite a bit doing those things. And of course, all over Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a phenomenal feed for those things. And so, yeah, I love it.
No special pets?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got my dog Sadie.
What dog you got?
Well, she's half golden retriever, half Australian Shepherd.
Oh.
And so
It's a lot of hair.
yeah, it's a lot of hair, and she's obsessed with fishing. I've created a monster. Like, she will literally get me up from, if I'm sitting down, and she'll start whining, and she'll lead me over to my fishing poles and my tackle.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and she just goes crazy for it. So I've created a monster, but she's my special girl for
What's
sure.
her name?
Sadie.
Sadie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any reason that she's called Sadie?
No, I mean, I've got a lot of nicknames for her, for sure. Call her Bugs, Sadie Bugs, and she used to eat bugs as a puppy. But I actually got her when I was at University of Georgia coaching. I picked her up as a pup first day, took her right out to practice. So she's been around horses, her whole life. But that's my child. That is my child for sure. Yeah.
I got 2 dogs. They're my kids for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The love I have for my 2 dogs is questionable versus the love I have for other things.
Yeah.
You're like, why do you love your dogs so much? I can't explain it.
I know.
They're just the best. All right, Luke, 2 questions to finish. What's your prized possession? House is burning. What are you grabbing other than the dog?
My prized possession. I would probably say I would be grabbing, materialistically, I'd be grabbing my hunting bow and some of my nice guns. I know that sounds so hick to say. I probably edit that out.
No, it's not.
But so I'd probably be grabbing that, for sure. Those would be my things that I just love, and some of my tackle and my fishing poles and things like that I'd be grabbing if my house is burning down. But non-materialistically, for sure, say my biggest value, of course, is my family and my friends. 100%, hands down. I think that's the biggest, most important thing in life. But
Yeah. What guns you got? And what type of shooting do you like to do?
Rifle, shotgun. I love hunting birds. Birds is kind of my more of my thing over hunting, but other things. But archery. I've got a Matthews bow. Love it.
It's hard to do.
It's really hard to do, but I prefer to shoot with my bow than I would a rifle. Mm-hmm. So I've really gotten into that, and of course, hunting season is happening now, right around the corner. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my prize.
Okay,
for
good
sure.
to know.
Yeah.
I'm not editing that out.
Okay.
But that just fits.
We're gonna go with it. Okay, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, favorite item of OSU gear.
Favorite item of OSU
you've
gear.
either been gifted or just favorite item, outfits you like to see, if the football team have different colors of uniform, right? Some of them they love the black one or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite that you love to see the girls in?
Yeah, for sure. So fun fact is my mom actually is the team seamstress.
Full family affair.
It really is a full family affair. I think I cannot.
Did they know what they were getting into when you got the job?
Probably not. But they were probably not. My mom's a very talented seamstress.
Yeah.
She doesn't give herself enough credit, but so she custom makes my horsemanship shirts. So everything is custom to that girl's body and what it needs to look right. So she's made some beautiful outfits. And I think my favorite one that she's made is our recent one. It's honestly all black. It's kind of a silk look to it. It's got, the custom collars that say OSU Equestrian. It just pops. It's beautiful. So, and of course I love, our hats too. My mom doesn't make those, but I love hats. Yeah. I mean, you will always catch me majority of the time in a ball cap, mainly because I don't like doing my hair, but I love a good ball cap for sure. But our hats are really, really cool. Our OSU Equestrian cowboy hats that are lasered on the side. Shorty's Cowboy Hattery makes those. And so those are just kind of a huge statement to the outfits that we wear. Yeah. For sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I got to throw this one in because they used to be a sponsor. They're not anymore, but it's a great question to ask. The Oklahoma Beef Council were a sponsor of the podcast last year. And their question they wanted me to ask people was, what's your favorite cut of meat? So if you're going to out for
a steak, yeah.
What is it?
What am I doing?
And how do you take it?
So, I mean, I love me a good sirloin, tenderloin, for sure. And I would go a medium rare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sides?
Absolutely. Sides? Mashed potatoes all the way. You cannot not have mashed potatoes.
True.
And I'd probably, do something somewhat healthy like asparagus, or depending on where I go, you can't stop there. You gotta eat a good bread roll with that too. So yeah, I'm all about those meat potatoes.
All right.
Yeah.
Good way to finish.
Yeah.
Laura, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been really good.
Thank you.
Great stories. You're clearly worthy of being on the podcast with with everything that you've done. Love the passion you have for the job that you do, and hope you stay around here for a very long time. And you've said you found home, so the dog's not going to let you go anywhere else, I don't think, unless you go fishing every day.
Yeah.
And you've got a great kind of team here, a great facility. And looking forward to keeping an eye on and spreading the word, and not only getting Snoop here, but seeing the success continue and roll in championships, national championships, and developing great human beings.
Yeah.
So,
thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Yeah. For people listening and watching, we will catch you next episode. Cheers.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.